all have different definitions of what comfort is, but as we speak about heating systems within a house, again, we're more concerned about when we heat our houses, are you comfortable? Okay, is the temperature up so high in one room versus another room that it becomes very uncomfortable to be in that room while it's comfortable to be in your living room, or let's say your bedrooms are too hot, for example. When we deal with that, we deal with the distribution system that's within the house from the furnace. Okay, so every room by code has to have a permanent type of heat source. So what we see a lot of times in rooms, we'll see the vents, whether the vents are in the floor, they're in the ceiling, or in a bathroom. Sometimes we'll have a heat fan lamp assembly in a bathroom that will suffice for the heat source. So as we know, hot air rises, cold air falls. We also know that a furnace is designed to heat a certain volume of air within the house. Okay, so as we deal with that, let's say we're talking about a bedroom type of area. And we develop within a house, we develop different pressure planes within a house. Negative pressure over here, positive pressure over here, meaning this. You have a bedroom door that's closed, and the furnace is running, and that bedroom gets excessively hot. Okay? So people will a lot of times try to, let's say, damper down that vent that's in the floor. They'll close the vents. Well, now you're not getting any air into that room. But now you're taking that air and you're diverting it into other places of the house. And so therefore they become more hot and this room becomes cool. So the occupant of that room is always colder while everybody else is either hotter. So there's ways to intermingle and mix and do different things within the interior of the house to make the air flow better. There are parts of the country where we see a lot of times the air and how it flows in the house. We'll see a lot of times where we see over the tops of doorways, we'll see what we call a jumper grill. And that's just an open grill, and basically what it does, allows air to transfer over the top of that door in and between different rooms. And so we're now not creating any different types of pressure planes. So the pressure in that room is the same as it is in this room. Therefore the air can flow more concentrically. Also, we'll see a lot of times we go into houses where we call undercutting the door. So if the door is tight against the bottom of the floor and it closes, we're not getting any air movement in and out of that room. So we'll undercut the door. In other words, we'll cut maybe an inch or two off the bottom of the door to allow air to go under the bottom. But again, as hot air rises, I actually encourage people to think about the aspect of putting in jumper grills over the tops of their doors. It's not as aesthetically pleasing as if we cut the bottom of the door off, so that's all going to be up to you whether or not you want to put a jumper grill in or undercut the door. But you'll get better airflow if you put a jumper grill over the top of the door. So when we talk about these heat sources that are in the floors a lot of times and how we actually move air, as an infrared camera thermographer, I can actually see the air and how it's moving and how it's being transferred. Again, air is a fluid. The air, by convection, is carrying the heat. And so we want to be able to heat all the rooms in the house concentrically. But a lot of times we'll see things that people do with the vents that are in the floors. One thing I see people doing that I do not encourage you to do is put any type of fabric filters or any types of filter things that you see in that vent. When you start doing that, you're restricting the air that's going to move through the vent and in theory back to the furnace, and so you have your air returns in the house and you could be doing more damage to the furnace by doing that. If you have a good filter in the furnace, you won't need to put the filters in the vents of the floors. The other things a lot of times we see in the floors are these little plastic diffusers. They look like a half moon shape type of thing. I mentioned the issue about me being, or the aspect of myself being an infrared camera thermographer. I've seen those vents, and basically you would think by looking at them that they're actually pushing the air out and away from the source. But under infrared camera thermography, all they're doing is they're just pushing the air in a big envelope right on top of the floor, so the air is not moving. So my professional opinion about those, unless you see how they're working, they're not doing the job that you think they were designed to do. So I don't recommend those either in a house. When we deal with how do we move air in a house, again, hot air rises, cold air falls. One of the best things I think that people can do is actually put ceiling fans in. A ceiling fan will move one way in the summertime, and you can make it move the opposite way in the wintertime. So in the wintertime, you would want that fan spinning in such a direction it's actually taking the air and pushing it back down again, so you have a cylindrical loop of air moving through the house or moving through that type of room. Because what will happen is the air will get up on top of the ceiling and it won't come down. By infrared camera thermography, a lot of times within rooms, we can actually see different temperature areas within that room where it's a lower temperature at a certain height than it is above that. One, because hot air is going to rise and the cold air is going to fall. So it's almost like a thermocline. If you find yourself sitting in your living room where you always seem to be cold when you're sitting in your chair, but you stand up, it's warmer, that's actually true. There's actually a thermocline in there. So by having a fan or some type of way to move that air around the house, you're doing yourself a much better service. Also, if you have a home that has large vaulted ceilings or higher ceilings, you can just envision all that warm air just sitting way high up on top of the ceiling or up in the vaults. It's very critical, actually, in my opinion, to put in a good fan so that in the wintertime you can actually push that warm air back down off of the ceiling and create more comfort for yourself. Also be aware that with comfort issues in a house, your basement type of areas are always going to be cooler than, let's say, the main floor level. So if you have a split level type of home, or you have a basement part of it, or part of your home is underground, you have to understand that temperature is not going to vary a lot. So you may need to integrate other types of heat sources into that room as well. We find a lot of times in basements, because that's a slab type of area, we don't have heat coming up through the floor. It's actually coming off of the ceilings, where your heat vents are in the ceilings, because from above you're heating the floor above you. So now you're trying to push warm air down, which doesn't work, right? Because it's going to want to rise anyway. So again, you want to think about in those types of areas actually having some type of, you may want to put some type of like an oscillating fan or just a ceiling fan. But again, you've got to move that air. If you ever see these things under infrared camera or want to see that, that's another aspect in which you can look at how your air is actually flowing into your house. Other types of comfort issues in houses that we deal with are a lot of times around your windows not being caulked or sealed properly. You'll feel air coming in through those. Around your vents, around your windows, those types of things. So again, you want to make sure you have good caulking, good weatherization, good sealing, so that the air you're moving is the air that's within the interior of the space, and you're not drawing other air in from the outside of the house. So again, ceiling fans are a good thing to put in. Just remember that you could have a difference in the temperature above and below.